The warning lights flashed red across the cockpit as Tae-ho Kim fought to keep his cargo ship from spinning out of control. Metal groaned and sparked around him as the hull took another hit from the pirates who had been chasing him for the last 3 hours. His hands moved quickly over the controls, trying to squeeze more power from the damaged engines. "Come on, old girl," he muttered to his ship. "Just a little further." The planet below looked green and peaceful through the cracked view screen. Tae-ho had never seen it before, but right now it was his only chance. The pirates had damaged his jump drive and his fuel was almost gone. It was either land on this unknown world or die in space. The ship shook violently as it hit the atmosphere. Tae-ho gripped the controls tighter, feeling the heat building up outside. Through the flames surrounding his ship, he could see forests and mountains rushing up to meet him. He aimed for what looked like a clearing between the trees. The crash was worse than he had hoped, but better than he had feared. The ship hit the ground hard, bouncing twice before sliding through the dirt and coming to rest against a large boulder. Tae-ho's head hit the control panel and everything went black. When he woke up, the first thing he noticed was the pain in his left leg. The second thing was the strange singing sound coming from outside his ship. It was beautiful, but unlike anything he had ever heard before. The melody seemed to float on the air like music made of light. Tae-ho tried to stand but fell back down with a cry of pain. His leg was definitely broken. He looked around the damaged cockpit and found his emergency kit. The medical scanner showed a clean break in his shin bone. He could fix it, but he would need time and rest. The singing outside stopped suddenly. Tae-ho froze, listening. Had they heard him? He reached for his sidearm, then stopped. If the beings outside wanted to hurt him, they could have done it while he was unconscious. A soft tapping came from the hull of his ship. Then a voice, speaking, in a language he did not understand. The words sounded like wind chimes mixed with water flowing over stones. It was the most beautiful voice he had ever heard. Tae-ho activated his ship's external speakers. "Hello," he said slowly. "Can you understand me?" The voice outside went quiet. Then came more tapping, but in a pattern now. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. The old Earth distress signal. These beings knew about humans. "I'm hurt," Tae-ho called out. "I need help." More voices joined the first one. They seemed to be discussing something in their musical language. Finally, the first voice spoke again, this time in broken but understandable human speech. "We help you, no, hurt us." "I won't hurt you," Tae-ho promised. "I just need medical help." The airlock hissed as it opened from the outside. Tae-ho stared in amazement as 2 beings floated into his ship. They were tall and thin, almost like stretched-out humans, but their skin looked like it was made of pale blue crystal. Their eyes were large and silver, and they moved like they were swimming through the air instead of walking. The first being, smaller than the other, approached carefully. When it spoke, Tae-ho realized it was female by her voice. "I am Kira," she said. "This is Jorim. We are Villani." "I'm Tae-ho," he replied. "Thank you for helping me." Kira knelt beside him and looked at his leg. Her hands glowed with a soft blue light as she ran them over his injured limb. "Broken," she said. "We fix. But you come with us. Not safe here." "Not safe? Why?" Jorim, the older male, spoke in heavily accented human speech. "The Kreks come. They hunt us. Take us for slaves. If they find you here with us." He made a cutting motion across his throat. Tae-ho had heard of the Kreks Empire. They were brutal conquerors who enslaved entire species. But he had never heard of the Villani. "How many of you are left?" "Few," Kira said sadly. "We hide. Most of our people gone. Krek ships come every few days, search for us." Despite his pain, Tae-ho felt anger building in his chest. These gentle beings were being hunted like animals. "How long have you been hiding?" 2 years, Jorim answered. "We used to live in great cities, had schools, hospitals, art centers. Now we live in caves and old ruins." Kira's hands continued to glow as she worked on his leg. The pain began to fade. "We must go now," she said. Krek's patrol will see your ship soon. But my ship, destroyed in crash, Jorim said firmly. Cannot fly. We take what we can carry. Leave rest. Taiho understood. His ship was dead anyway. The crash had ruined most of the important systems. He grabbed his emergency pack, weapons, and communication equipment. The Villani watched with interest as he checked his gear. You are warrior? Kira asked. Cargo pilot, Taiho said. But all humans learn to fight. The Villani exchanged looks. We do not fight, Jorim said. We are healers, builders, teachers. We never learned war. Maybe it's time you did, Taiho replied. They helped him out of his ship and through the forest. Other Villani waited in the trees, watching nervously. There were maybe 20 of them, including children who hid behind their parents. All of them had the same crystal-like skin and large silver eyes. The Villani settlement was hidden in a canyon between tall cliffs. They had built their homes into the rock walls, making them hard to see from above. It was clever camouflage, but Taiho could see it would not stop a determined search. As they entered the main cave, alarms began sounding from devices placed around the canyon. The Villani immediately began running to hiding places they had clearly practiced many times before. Krex, patrol, Jorim said grimly. They scanned from orbit. Through the cave opening, Taiho could see dark shapes moving across the sky. 3 Krex ships flew in formation, their sensors sweeping the ground below. They were looking for heat signatures and metal. They'll find my ship, Taiho whispered. Yes, Kira agreed. And they will know humans are here. They will search harder. Now. The Krex ship circled the area for an hour before flying away. But Taiho knew they would be back, and next time they would bring more ships and ground troops. That night, as the Villani tended to his healing leg, Taiho stared up at the stars and thought about home. His sister Daun would be worried about him. The Colonial Navy would list him as missing in action. But right now, none of that mattered. What mattered was that these peaceful beings had risked their own safety to help a stranger. The least he could do was return the favor, even if it meant teaching them to become something they had never wanted to be. Warriors. 3 months had passed since Taiho's ship crashed on the Villani world. His leg had healed completely thanks to Kira's advanced medical knowledge. The Villani could do things with their hands that human doctors needed machines for. They could heal bones, stop bleeding, and even fix damaged organs just by touching them. But healing was not the only thing Taiho had learned about during his time with them. The Villani had technology that was far beyond anything humans had developed. Their computers were made from living crystal that could think and grow. Their energy systems could power entire cities without any fuel. Most amazing of all, they had communication devices that could send messages instantly across the galaxy. Your people must be worried about you, Kira said one morning as they sat together watching the sunrise. She had been teaching him the Villani language, and he was teaching her more about human customs. My sister Dayun works for the Colonial Navy, Taiho replied. She'll keep looking for me until she finds me or proof that I'm dead. Then we should send her a message, Kira suggested. Our quantum communicators can reach anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Taiho stared at her. You can do that? Of course. We used them to coordinate between our cities before. Her voice trailed off sadly. Before the Krex came and destroyed those cities, they went to see Jorim, who was working on one of the communication devices in the deepest part of the cave system. The old Villani engineer looked up as they approached. Taiho wants to send a message to his people, Kira explained. Jorim nodded slowly. Dangerous. If Krex intercept signal, they learn humans are here. Can you make it secure? Taiho asked. Yes, but message will be strange, different from human technology. Your sister might not believe it is from you. Taiho thought about that. Dayun was smart and thorough. She would investigate anything unusual. Show me how it works. The quantum communicator looked nothing like human equipment. It was a smooth crystal sphere that glowed with inner light. When Jorim touched it, symbols appeared in the air above it like solid holograms. Speak your message, Jorim said. But keep it short. Long transmissions are easier to trace. Taeho took a deep breath and spoke carefully. Da-un, this is Taeho. I'm alive but stranded on a planet in the Kepler 442 system. The Vellani people saved my life. They are peaceful and have incredible technology, but they're being hunted by the Krex Empire. Thousands are being enslaved or killed. They need help. I'm sending technical data about their quantum communication system as proof this message is real. Please tell Admiral Choi that we have a chance to save an entire species and gain technology that could change everything. I'll keep transmitting on this frequency when I can. End message. The crystal pulsed brighter as it recorded his words. Then Jorim began touching different symbols, adding technical information about the communicator itself. Finally, he pressed his palm against the crystal and the message shot away faster than light. Now we wait, Jorim said. Far across the galaxy, on the human military station orbiting Mars, Da-Yun Park was finishing her night shift in the communication center. She monitored hundreds of channels for distress signals, enemy transmissions, and messages from deep space colonies. It was often boring work, but she never stopped hoping to hear from her missing brother. The quantum transmission hit their receivers like nothing they had ever seen before. The signal was so clear and powerful that it overloaded 3 monitoring systems. Daeun rushed to isolate the transmission before it could damage more equipment. When she heard Taeho's voice, she nearly fell out of her chair. Then she saw the technical data that came with it. The quantum communication specifications were unlike anything in human science. This was technology that could revolutionize space travel and communication. She immediately called her supervisor, then the base commander, then Admiral Hyunwoo Lee himself. Within an hour, the most important people in the colonial navy were studying her brother's message. It could be a trap, Admiral Lee said as he reviewed the data. Enemy intelligence trying to lure our ships into an ambush. Sir, with respect, no known species has this level of quantum technology, Da-Un replied. And the voice patterns match my brother exactly. I've run every test we have. Even if the message is real, said Captain Woo Jin Nam, Lee's chief of staff, we can't start a war with the Krex Empire to save some aliens we've never heard of. But Da-Un had done her research. Sir, the Krex are already expanding toward human space. Intelligence reports show they've been testing our border defenses. If they enslave a species with this kind of technology, they'll be unstoppable when they come for us. Back on the Vellani world, things were getting worse. The Krex had increased their patrols after finding Taeho's crashed ship. Ground troops now searched the forests daily. 3 times Vellani scouts had barely escaped capture. We cannot stay hidden much longer, Jorim told the group gathered in the main cave. They are getting closer each day. Then we need to start fighting back, Taeho said. The Vellani looked uncomfortable. Fighting was not in their nature. They were builders and healers, not warriors. But Taeho had been teaching some of the younger ones basic combat skills. They were quick learners when they tried. Show them the energy projectors, Taeho urged. Reluctantly, Kira demonstrated one of their tools. She held a crystal device that could focus energy into a beam. The Vellani used them for cutting stone and shaping metal. But Taeho had realized they could also be weapons. We use these for building, Kira explained, not for hurting. Right now you need to hurt the Krex before they hurt you, Taeho replied. I know it goes against everything you believe. But sometimes you have to fight to protect what you love. A young Vellani named Zen had been practicing with the energy projector. I can hit targets now, he said quietly. But I do not know if I can use it on a living being. You'll know when the time comes, Taeho assured him. When you see them threatening someone you care about, you'll find the courage. That night, the time came sooner than expected. Krex soldiers attacked the canyon, using dropships to land troops directly in the settlement. The Vellani had never faced a direct assault before. Many of them froze in panic. But Taeho was ready. He had prepared fighting positions and escape routes over the past weeks. Remember what I taught you, he shouted as blaster fire lit up the cave walls. Zen was the first to use his energy projector as a weapon when he saw Krex soldiers advancing toward a group of Vellani children. Something changed in him. The beam from his projector cut through the soldier's armor like it was paper. Other young Villani followed his example. They were afraid and awkward, but they fought to protect their families. The Kreks had expected no resistance at all. They were caught off guard by the sudden counterattack. But the victory came at a cost. During the fighting, a Krek's grenade exploded near the cave entrance. Kira threw herself in front of Teho and 3 Villani children, taking the full blast. Teho caught her as she fell. Her crystal skin was cracked and dark liquid flowed from her wounds. Kira, stay with me. Did we save them? She whispered. Yes, the children are safe. She smiled weakly. Your people. They will remember us, won't they? They will know we tried to be brave? They'll remember, Teho promised. I'll make sure of it. Kira died holding his hand as the last Krek soldiers retreated to their ships. Around them, the Villani mourned their first battle and their first casualty of war. They had learned to fight, but the cost was almost too much to bear. Teho knelt beside Kira's body and made a silent vow. Somehow, some way, he would bring his people back to save what was left of hers. The Villani had saved him when he was just one lost human. Now it was time for humanity to return the favor for all of them. The emergency session of the Terran Colonial Council was unlike anything they had held before. Representatives from 12 human worlds sat around the great circular table on Earth, studying reports that seemed impossible to believe. Admiral So Young Choi stood at the center, presenting evidence that could change the course of human history. The quantum transmission data has been verified by our best scientists, she announced to the room. The technology described in Pilot Kim's message is real and functional. We've managed to build a basic receiver using the specifications he sent us. Counselor Min Ho Yoon from the industrial world of Kepler 186F shook his head. Even if this is all true, we cannot risk human lives for aliens we know nothing about. Our duty is to our own people first. But Admiral, asked Counselor Hee Jin, Park from Alpha Centauri, what kind of species are these Villani? How do we know they won't turn this technology against us later? Daeun Park, who had been invited to speak as the communications expert who first received the message, stood up. Counselor Park, my brother has sent 7 more messages over the past 2 months. Each one describes a species that risked everything to save the life of a single human stranger. They had never seen our kind before, yet they chose to help rather than leave him to die. Pretty words, Counselor Yoon replied coldly. But the Krek's empire has over 1,000 battleships. We have maybe 300 that could make the journey to this distant world. Are we supposed to start a war we might not win for the sake of aliens? Admiral Choi activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Images of Krek's ships and battle data appeared above the table. Actually, Counselor Yoon, our intelligence suggests the Krek's forces in that sector number around 600 ships. Still more than us, but not impossible odds. Not impossible? Counselor Yoon stood up, his face red with anger. You want to risk the lives of thousands of human service members on not impossible? Captain Jae Min Han, the veteran officer who had fought in the Centauri Wars, spoke quietly from his seat. Counselor Yoon, I've read every message that Pilot Kim sent. Do you know what he writes about most? Not the advanced technology or the potential military advantages. He writes about a Villani healer named Kira, who died protecting human children she had never met before. He writes about an entire species learning to fight for the first time in their history, not to conquer others, but to protect the innocent. Captain Han makes a good point, said Counselor Jiwon Lee from New Seoul. But we must also consider the practical benefits. This quantum communication technology alone could connect our scattered colonies instantly. No more months-long delays in sending messages between worlds. Dr. Yoonji Seo, the government's chief xenobiologist, had been quiet during most of the debate. Now she stood and activated her own holographic display. There's something else you all need to know. In his latest message, Pilot Kim described Villani medical technology. They can regrow organs, repair genetic damage, and extend lifespans by hundreds of years. We're not just talking about saving an alien species. We're talking about medical advances that could benefit every human in the galaxy. The room fell silent as the counselors studied the medical data. Finally, Counselor Soo-Jin Kim from the farming world of Glisa 667C spoke up. Dr. Seo, are you saying these Villani could help us cure diseases that we've been fighting for centuries? I'm saying they might have already cured them, Dr. Seo replied. According to Pilot Kim's reports, the Villani don't suffer from cancer, genetic disorders, or aging-related diseases. Their healers can fix almost any injury or illness with their bare hands. Then we have to help them, declared Counselor Park. Not just for the technology, but because it's the right thing to do. The right thing? Counselor Yoon laughed bitterly. The right thing is to protect humanity first. What happens when we send our fleet across the galaxy and the Kreks attack our colonies while our ships are gone? Admiral Choi had been expecting this question. Counselor, our intelligence shows that the Kreks are currently focused on enslaving species in the Outer Rim territories. They won't move against human space for at least 2 years. This rescue mission could be completed in 6 months. Could be completed, Counselor Yoon repeated. But what if it takes longer? What if the Kreks are stronger than we think? What if this is all an elaborate trap? Young Counselor Taejun, from the frontier world of Wolf 359, had been listening carefully to the debate. Now he stood up with a datapad in his hand. I've been doing some research while we talked. The Kreks Empire has been expanding for 50 years. In that time, they've enslaved or destroyed 47 different species. Not one of those species was ever heard from again. He activated the room's display system and showed a map of Kreks expansion. Look at this pattern. Every species they conquer becomes part of their war machine. The smart ones become engineers and scientists working under Krek supervision. The strong ones become slave soldiers fighting in Krek's armies. If they enslave the Villani and get access to this quantum technology, they'll be unstoppable when they come for us. So you're saying we fight them now or fight them later when they're stronger? Asked Counselor Park. Exactly, Counselor O replied. And right now, we have potential allies who know Krek's tactics and weaknesses. Meanwhile, on the distant Villani world, the situation was getting desperate. Taeho sat in the deepest part of their hidden cave system, sending what might be his final message to Earth. Around him, the remaining Villani prepared for another attack. Daun, this is my 7th message, he spoke into the quantum communicator. The Kreks have found 2 more Villani settlements this week. We estimate less than 3,000 of them are still free. They're learning to fight, but they're running out of places to hide. If help doesn't come soon, there won't be anyone left to save. He paused, looking around at the faces of the aliens who had become his family. I need you to understand something. These aren't just potential allies or sources of advanced technology. These are good people who chose to help a stranger when they had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Kira died saving human lives, and she wasn't the only one. Whatever the Council decides, tell them that some things are worth fighting for, even when the odds are bad. The transmission ended and Taeho sat back against the crystal wall. Jorim approached him, moving more slowly than he used to. The old Villani had been wounded in the last attack and hadn't fully recovered. Do you think your people will come? Jorim asked. I don't know, Taeho answered honestly. Humans can be selfish sometimes. We don't always do the right thing just because it's right. But sometimes you do, said Zen, the young Villani who had become their best fighter. You stayed with us when you could have tried to escape. You taught us to defend ourselves when it would have been safer to remain hidden. That's different. I owe you my life. No, Jorim said quietly. That is exactly the same. Your people will understand that debt, just as you did. Back on Earth, the debate was reaching its climax. Admiral Choi had presented detailed battle plans for 3 different rescue scenarios. Dr. Seo had explained the potential benefits of Villani technology. Da-Eun Park had shared every message from her brother, painting a picture of a species worth saving. Fleet Admiral So-Young Choi, the highest-ranking military officer in the room, stood to make the final military assessment. Counselors, I've been fighting for human interests for 30 years. I've never recommended military action lightly, but this is bigger than one rescue mission. This is about what kind of species we want to be. Explain, requested Council Chairman Dongwu Han. The Krex Empire respects only strength. If we show them that we'll cross the galaxy to protect our allies, they'll think twice about attacking human space. But if we abandon the Villani after they saved one of our people, the Krex will see us as weak and selfish. They'll know we won't fight for anyone but ourselves. So you recommend military intervention? Asked the chairman. I recommend Operation Starlight, Admiral Choi replied. 200 ships, 6 months, full evacuation of surviving Villani to a protected world in human space. We save them. We gain access to technology that could advance our civilization by centuries, and we show the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises. The vote was called. One by one, the councilors made their choice. When it was over, Chairman Han announced the result. 7 votes in favor, 5 opposed. Operation Starlight is authorized. As the councilors filed out of the chamber, Admiral Choi was already making calls to fleet commanders across human space. Within hours, ships would begin gathering for the largest rescue mission in human history. On the Villani world, Tai-Ho didn't know about the vote yet. But as he looked up at the stars through a crack in the cave ceiling, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. The human fleet came out of hyperspace like an avenging storm. 200 ships spread across the star system in perfect formation, their weapons powered and shields raised. Admiral So-Young Choi stood on the bridge of the battleship Incheon, studying the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Status report, she ordered. 63 Krex vessels in orbit around the planet, announced Commander Ji-Hoon Park, her tactical officer. They have 12 slave transport ships docked at orbital stations. Sensors show massive energy signatures. From the surface, they're conducting orbital bombardment operations. They're killing them from space, whispered Lieutenant Soo-Jin Lee, the young communications officer who had been monitoring Villani transmissions during the long journey. Admiral, we're receiving hundreds of distress calls from the surface. Admiral Choi's jaw tightened. They had arrived just in time. A few more days and there might have been no Villani left to save. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. Operation Starlight is now active. Primary objective, eliminate Krex orbital forces. Secondary objective, secure evacuation zones for ground operations. Fighter squadrons launch immediately. From the carrier Gwangju, Commander Bora Jung led 3 fighter squadrons toward the Krex orbital platforms. She had studied every piece of intelligence they had about Krex tactics during the journey. The enemy relied on heavy armor and powerful weapons, but they were slow to adapt when faced with unexpected strategies. Gold Squadron, target the communication arrays on the main station, she ordered. Silver Squadron, take out their sensor platforms. Red Squadron, follow me. We're going after their command ship. The Krex had never faced human fighters before. They were used to enemies who fought in predictable patterns, trading heavy blows until one side was destroyed. But human pilots were different. They moved like dancers in space, using speed and creativity instead of raw firepower. Bora's fighter dove between 2 Krex destroyers, using their own bulk to shield her from their weapons. She fired a precise burst at the command ship's bridge, then spun away as return fire missed her by meters. Behind her, the rest of Red Squadron followed her example, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. This is Gold Leader, came a voice over the comm. Communication arrays are down. The Krex can't coordinate their defense anymore. Silver Leader here, reported another pilot. Sensor platforms destroyed. They're flying blind now. Admiral Choi watched the battle from the Incheon's command center. The Krex were powerful but confused. They kept trying to form defensive lines, but human ships would appear from unexpected angles and tear holes in their formations. Admiral, called out Commander Park, we're getting a transmission from the surface. It's Pilot Kim. Taeho's voice crackled through the speakers, filled with exhaustion, but also hope. Human fleet, this is Taeho Kim. I have coordinates for 17 Villani settlements that are still holding out. But the Krex have ground forces moving toward the sacred archives in the mountain range. If they capture that facility, we'll lose thousands of years of Villani scientific knowledge. Signal Major Seung-ho Kim on the transport Busan, Admiral Choi ordered. Tell him his cousin needs immediate ground support. Major Seung-ho Kim had been waiting for this moment since learning about his cousin's situation. He led the 7th Colonial Marines, the best ground fighters in human space. As soon as the Incheons fighters cleared a path through the orbital defenses, his transport ships dove toward the planet's surface. Listen up, Marines, he announced to his troops as they prepared for combat drop. We're not fighting for territory or resources today. We're fighting for people who risk their lives to save one of ours. Make every shot count. The Marines landed in the middle of a Krex ground assault on a Volani settlement. The enemy soldiers were advancing in heavy armor, using energy weapons to blast through the crystal formations that the Volani used for cover. But they had never faced opponents trained in human combat tactics. Sergeant Min Jun-oh led his squad in a flanking maneuver that the Krex never saw coming. While the enemy focused their fire on the Volani positions, the humans attacked from the side and behind. Their weapons were designed to penetrate Krex armor, and their training taught them to move fast and strike hard. Target their joints, Oh shouted to his Marines. Krex armor is weak at the shoulders and knees. The battle turned quickly once the Marines joined the fight. The Krex had expected to face the same poorly armed Volani they had been hunting for months. Instead, they found themselves fighting professional soldiers who knew exactly how to kill them. Tae-ho fought alongside Major Kim's forces, leading a mixed group of humans and Volani toward the sacred archives. The young Volani he had trained were now experienced fighters, but they still preferred to heal rather than harm whenever possible. Zen, can you get us through that energy barrier? Tae-ho asked as they approached the mountain facility. The young Volani studied the Krex force field blocking the entrance to the archives. Yes, but I will need to modify our energy projectors to match their frequency. Give me 5 minutes. We don't have 5 minutes, Major Kim pointed out. Krex reinforcements are landing on the other side of the mountain. Then we make our own time, Tae-ho replied. He activated his comm unit and called for air support. Commander Young, this is Ground Team Alpha. We need close air support at the Sacred Archives coordinates transmitting now. Bo Rajung's fighter squadron had finished destroying the orbital platforms and was looking for new targets. Ground Team Alpha, this is Gold Leader. We see Krex dropships landing at your location. Beginning attack run now. The human fighters swept down from orbit like hunting hawks, their weapons tearing through the Krex ground forces. But the enemy had brought heavy anti-aircraft guns with them. 2 human fighters were hit and crashed in the mountains. Gold 3 and Gold 7 are down, Bora reported grimly. But the landing zone is clear. You have maybe 10 minutes before more Krex arrive. Zen finished his modifications to the energy projectors just as the force field flickered and died. The entrance to the sacred archives was open, but they could hear Krex soldiers moving inside the facility. They're trying to steal the archives, Jorim said with anger in his voice. The old Volani had insisted on coming despite his injuries. Thousands of years of our history and science. We cannot let them take it. The fight inside the sacred archives was unlike anything the humans had experienced. The facility was a maze of crystal corridors filled with floating data storage units that contained the entire knowledge of Volani civilization. The Krex soldiers were trying to download everything while their engineers worked to transport the most valuable pieces. Tae-ho and Major Kim led their forces through the crystal maze, using the Volani's knowledge of the facility to outmaneuver the enemy. But the Krex were desperate now, and desperate enemies were dangerous ones. They're setting charges, warned Corporal Yun Seo-jang, one of Major Kim's explosives experts. If they can't steal the archives, they're going to destroy them. Not if we stop them first, Tae-ho replied. He turned to Jorim and the other Volani with them. Can you download the most important data while we keep the Krex busy? Yes, but it will take time, Jorim answered. The quantum storage systems are complex. We'll buy you that time, Major Kim promised. The final battle for the sacred archives lasted only 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Human Marines and Volani defenders fought side by side through crystal corridors that sparkled with energy weapons fire. The Krex fought hard, knowing that failure meant execution by their commanders. But in the end, human determination and Volani knowledge proved stronger than Krek's desperation. The last enemy soldier fell just as Jorim finished downloading the most critical archives to portable quantum storage units. "We have it," the old Volani announced with tears in his silver eyes. "The heart of our civilization is safe." Above the planet, Admiral Choi was receiving reports from across the system. "All Krek's orbital forces destroyed or retreating," Commander Park announced. "Ground operations report 17 Volani settlements secured. Casualty reports coming in now." The numbers were better than they had dared to hope. 43 human dead, 116 wounded. But over 4,000 Volani had been rescued, along with their entire cultural and scientific heritage. "Signal all ships," Admiral Choi ordered. "Begin evacuation operations. I want every surviving Volani off this planet within 48 hours. But even as the evacuation began, new warnings came from the fleet's long-range sensors. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Lee, "we're detecting massive hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple Krek's fleets inbound." Admiral Choi studied the tactical display with a mixture of pride and concern. They had won the first battle and saved the Volani. But the war was just beginning, and the enemy was bringing everything they had. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. 6 hours, maybe 8, Commander Park replied. "Sensors show at least 600 ships." The Admiral looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They had come here to rescue a peaceful species from genocide. Now they had to decide whether to retreat with their victory or stay and fight against impossible odds. "Signal the fleet," she decided. "All civilian transports with rescued Volani aboard will jump to hyperspace immediately." Combat vessel. The Krek's reinforcement fleet came out of hyperspace like a wall of death. 600 warships spread across space in perfect battle formation, their weapons already charging for the attack. On the bridge of the Incheon, Admiral So-Young Choi watched the tactical display and felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. "Signal from the Krek's command ship," reported Lieutenant Soo-Jin Lee. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." "Tell them," Admiral Choi replied calmly, "that humans don't surrender when innocent lives are at stake." The evacuation ships carrying rescued Volani had already jumped to hyperspace, protected by 50 human escort vessels. But 170 combat ships remained to face the Krek's armada. The odds were more than 3 to 1 against them. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi," she announced over the fleet communication channel. "We came here to save every last Volani we could find. Mission accomplished. Now we make sure they stay safe. Every minute we hold this line gives our people more time to reach safety." Commander Bo-Ra Jung's fighter squadrons launched from their carriers, knowing they might not have anywhere to land when the battle was over. Major Seung-Ho Kim's Marines prepared for boarding actions, expecting the enemy to try to capture human ships for intelligence. The battle began with the largest space engagement in human history. Krek's heavy cruisers fired massive energy beams that could cut a destroyer in half. Human ships responded with coordinated missile strikes and precise laser fire that targeted weak points in enemy armor. "Focus on their command vessels," Admiral Choi ordered. "Make them work to coordinate this fleet." The human strategy was simple but effective. Instead of trying to match the Krek's ship for ship, they used superior tactics and pilot training to create chaos in the enemy formation. Human captains had been studying Krek's battle records for months. They knew exactly how the enemy liked to fight, and they were ready with surprises. Captain Dong-Hyun Park, Daeun's husband, commanded the heavy cruiser Seoul. His ship had taken severe damage, but was still fighting when he saw Krek's boarding ships moving toward the carrier Gwangju. "All engines full," he ordered his crew. "Ramming course on the Krek's flagship." "Sir," his navigation officer protested, "that's a suicide run." "No," Captain Park replied, thinking of his wife back on Mars and all the Volani children now safely escaping to human space. "That's making sure the good guys win." The Seoul accelerated directly at the massive Krek's command ship, firing every weapon she had. Krek's fighters tried to intercept, but Bo-Ra Jung's squadron cleared a path with desperate courage. The cruiser struck the enemy flagship just below its main bridge, the explosion visible from across the star system. "Captain Park's ship is gone," reported Commander Ji-Hoon Park on the Incheon, "but he took their flagship with him." Krek's coordination is breaking down. Admiral Choi felt each loss like a knife in her heart, but she kept her voice steady. Signal all ships. Continue the attack. Make every sacrifice count. The Battle of Kepler 442b lasted 6 hours. When it was over, only 47 human ships remained operational. The Kreks had lost over 200 vessels, including most of their command structure. Both fleets limped away from each other too, damaged to continue fighting. But the evacuation ships had escaped safely, carrying 4,000 Volani survivors to a new home in human space. The mission was complete. 5 years later, Tae-ho Kim stood in the Memorial Garden of New Sanctuary Colony looking at the wall of names carved in both human and Volani script. Kira's name was there, along with Captain Dong-hyun Park and all the others who had died to make this place possible. The children are doing well in their new school, said Aaron, Kira's younger sister who had survived the war. She was now the Volani's first military commander, trained in human tactics but still guided by her people's peaceful nature. Kira would be proud of you, Tae-ho replied, and proud of what this place has become. New Sanctuary was a marvel that attracted visitors from across the galaxy. Human engineering had built the cities, but Volani technology made them run. The medical centers could heal injuries that would have been fatal just years before. The communication arrays allowed instant contact with colonies hundreds of light years away. The energy systems were so efficient that the entire planet ran on clean, unlimited power. Ambassador Kim called Dr. Hae-won Ko, a Volani scientist who had become famous throughout human space for her medical nanites. The council meeting is starting. Tae-ho had been appointed as the first human ambassador to the Volani, a job that mostly involved helping two very different species learn to work together. It had not always been easy, but the results spoke for themselves. The colony's council chamber was a blend of human practicality and Volani beauty. Elected representatives from both species met weekly to discuss everything from resource allocation to cultural exchange programs. Today's topic was the latest request for protection that had arrived from halfway across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Union is asking for our help against the hegemony, announced Councillor Wei Jin Song, New Sanctuary's human representative. Their entire species could be enslaved within months if we don't intervene. How many ships would we need to send? Asked Elder Mira, speaking for the Volani council members. At least 50, replied Captain Young Soo-han, the colony's military advisor. The hegemony has learned from the Krek's mistakes. They're expecting human tactics now. Tae-ho listened to the debate with mixed feelings. Word of humanity's intervention at Kepler 442b had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within 2 years, 3 different species had sent diplomatic missions to Earth, seeking protection from various threats. Humanity had inadvertently become known as the Guardians, the species that would cross the void to protect the innocent. The volunteer lists are already full, reported Major Aaron. Both human and Volani crews want to join this mission. It had started with human volunteers, veterans of the Battle of Kepler 442b who felt called to continue the mission. But young Volani had joined them, trained in combat but guided by their people's natural desire to heal and protect. Together, they had already helped save 2 other species from extinction. I say we go, declared Councillor Song. It's what we do now. The vote was unanimous. Within a month, the combined human-Volani fleet would depart for Zephyrian space. It would be dangerous and some of them would not come back. But that was the price of being guardians. After the meeting, Tae-ho walked to his favorite spot in the colony, a hill overlooking the main settlement where human and Volani children played together in parks designed by both species. The sight never failed to amaze him. 5 years ago, these 2 civilizations had never met. Now they were family. Thinking deep thoughts? Asked Admiral So-young Choi as she joined him on the hill. She had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Colonial Defense after the battle, but she still visited New Sanctuary whenever her duties allowed. Just wondering what Kira would think of all this, Tae-ho replied. She died believing her people were finished, now look at them. She'd probably say it's what she expected, Admiral Choi observed. From what you've told me, she always believed in doing the right thing no matter the cost. A new transmission alert sounded on Teho's communication device. Another distress signal from another distant world. Another species facing extinction. There would always be another one, he realized. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and there would always be bullies and tyrants trying to destroy what others had built. The volunteer fleet commanders are waiting for orders, Admiral Choi said gently. Teho looked once more at the children playing in the park, human and Villani together, learning and growing in safety because people had been willing to fight for them. Then he looked up at the stars where other children on other worlds waited for someone to care enough to help them. Tell them we're coming, he decided. All of them. No one gets left behind. As the sun set over New Sanctuary, the spaceport began, preparing for another mission. Human and Villani crews worked side by side, loading medical supplies alongside weapons, scientific equipment alongside soldiers. They were going to war again, but they were going to war for peace. The galaxy had learned that when you save a single human, they don't forget. They come back for everyone, and now thanks to the Villani who had shown them what true compassion looked like, they were teaching the galaxy that some things were worth fighting for, even when the odds were bad, even when the enemy was stronger, even when the cost might be everything, because that's what guardians do. They stand between the innocent and the darkness no matter what it costs them. And as long as there were humans and Villani working together, no species would face extinction alone. The stars were full of dangers, but they were also full of hope. And hope, as it turned out, was the most powerful weapon in the universe.